one of the greatest innovators of the 20th century. He changed the lives of average Americans. He made cars affordable and reliable. His influence reached all over America and beyond. Henry Ford. Ford's innovation became a model in manufacturing to standardize the output to create products efficient, cheaper, and faster. Ford's method transcended beyond the automobile industry and is being used by manufacturers around the world. Henry Ford was born into a family of farmers. Growing up, Ford's interest was on machines rather than farm chores. As a young boy, he helped fix his neighbors' and friends' timepieces, and he analyzed every machine he saw. His parents understood his interest and allowed him to tinker with machines and even set up a workbench for him in the kitchen. At the age of 16, Henry's father arranged for him to live in the city to get a job as a machinist. Henry used this opportunity to the fullest and worked long hours in different shops. By the age of 31, he grew to be the chief engineer at the Edison Illuminating Company. In his off hours, Ford worked on his passion of building a horseless carriage. From that pastime obsession was born his first creation, a gas-powered vehicle in the year 1896. Ford dubbed this the quadricycle. 2 years later, Henry Ford was awarded his first patent by the mayor of Detroit for a carburetor he built. These creations got investors interested in Henry Ford and helped him start his first company, the Detroit Automobile Company, in the year 1899. The first car of this company was not reliable and had many engine problems. It only ran for a few minutes at a time. The company could not withstand competition and so went out of business in 1900. With continued support from some investors, he founded a new company called the Henry Ford Company. The investors pushed for a more reliable car for the rich, but Ford, in his quest for a perfect car, continued to experiment with engine design. Soon, Ford left the company over disagreements with his investors in 1902. Ford was still very determined. He tried his hand in car racing and managed to make enough money to incorporate the Ford Motor Company in 1903. Within a month, the first car of Ford Motor Company was assembled in Detroit. Ford's peers thought the automobile was a thing of the rich. Ford dared to think differently. He believed he could make an affordable car for the multitude. This makes him a great leader and a visionary. Because of his unwavering focus for perfection, Henry Ford made sure that all the flaws in the cars he produced in his previous companies were resolved and continued to improve upon them in the newer cars. The Ford Motor Company released newer models of cars every few months. Ford worked his way down the letters of the alphabet, searching for a car that his customers would love, and kept innovating until he found the Model T. The Model T went on to become a revolutionary car. One of Ford's biggest leadership qualities was always finding ways to improve. In the 19 years that the so-called perfect Model T was in production, he found many ways to constantly make the production methods better. Ford put in place a moving assembly line system to speed up the process of manufacturing. Over 15 million cars were built. The Model T became an efficient and a reliable car. Innovative production methods made the Model T very affordable over the years. The legacy continues even today in many industries, and the repetitive and monotonous human labor in the assembly line is now replaced by robots. But back then, the conditions of work in the moving assembly line was grueling and repetitive. That made the employees quit after a few days. But Henry Ford, being a creative leader, concocted a plan to make employees hold on to their jobs. He doubled the worker wages to $5 a day, and he also reduced the workday from 9 hours to 8 hours. This reduced worker turnover and helped increase production by 50% or more. This also allowed Henry Ford to have his production cycle in 3 shifts so he could produce around the clock. When Ford announced the $5 a day wages, everyone thought that it was a very bad idea, but they were proved completely wrong when 10,000 people showed up outside the Ford plant on the day after the announcement.
One of the most enduring legacies of Henry Ford was the way he treated people, including and maybe most especially his own employees.
People from different parts of America moved to Detroit seeking jobs. Henry Ford provided opportunities for many people, including international workers. Henry Ford's plan to attract workers was unique and totally changed the business. This, in Ford's own words, "the greatest cost-cutting move I have ever made."
His impact goes far beyond the automobile. His most lasting legacy may be the idea that a company should do more than just make a profit. It should make a positive difference in people's lives.
Henry Ford believed that the Model T could be made even more affordable, and for that purpose, he wanted to invest in the construction of the River Rouge plant factory to increase production capacity. He decided to plow the profits back in the business instead of giving dividends to shareholders. The Dodge brothers, one of the minority shareholders, objected to this and took Henry Ford to court. Even though Ford lost this case, he eventually took complete control of the company and built the Rouge plant. Henry Ford's biggest legacy was mass production and mass consumption. He did this by increasing the worker productivity, which happened naturally on the assembly line. He also adopted a system of vertical integration in which he produced every element of a car on site. This reduced the cost of raw materials and in turn the cost of the Model T. Ford contributed to mass consumption by increasing the worker wages and lowering the car prices. This was clearly evident as the Model T price dropped from $950 in 1909 to $290 in 1924. With this, Henry Ford converted his entire labor force to potential customers. The increase in labor force led to the formation of auto worker associations and eventually to the formation of the United Auto Workers, the UAW, in 1935. UAW entered into agreements with other auto companies, but Henry Ford resisted the labor unions. He even used the security team to attack union organizers in his plant to discourage them. This came to be known as the famous Battle of the Overpass. Ford was finally convinced by his wife Clara and son Edsel to sign the contract with the UAW. Henry Ford's intuitive leadership style was one of his greatest strengths, but sometimes proved to be his weakness as well. His strong-willed nature prevented him from reading the market changes for the Model T. His son Edsel, a more collaborative leader, convinced his father to redesign and release a newer Model A. Henry Ford was a visionary leader who emerged as a farm boy but went on to become a symbol of modern industrial America. His everlasting legacy is in giving America the unseen mobility that we take for granted today. He transformed the car from a plaything of the rich to a necessity for the average middle class. He cared for his workers, and his doubling of wages improved the living standard of the working class, and the 8-hour workday set the standard for factory work schedule. Ford's legacy of standardizing the output to improve productivity is used very widely today and has come to be commonly referred to as Fordism. Henry Ford died in the year 1947 at the age of 83. 52 years after his death, in the year 1999, he was named the Car Entrepreneur of the Century. Fortune magazine also named him the Businessman of the Century. His revolutionary creation, the Model T, was awarded the Car of the 20th Century, and these are ultimate proof to his contributions and influence on the society.